My name is Dave Tran, and this is LuxTV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have chiropractor Dr. Jean-Marc Slak, calling from Bedford, Massachusetts. He graduated from Life University in 1984. Dr. Jean-Marc, welcome to LuxTV.
Thank you, Dave. It's an honor, a pleasure. I'm very happy that you asked me to participate.
Yeah.
Hope I can help out and be of contribution.
Yes. So let's get straight to it. So how'd you get your start in chiropractic?
Well, literally last century, I first started my exposure to chiropractic when I was maybe 12 or 13, and I had seizures. I had a seizure disorder. I had seizures, multiple seizures a day. Literally every hour of the day I had seizures. So that kind of like put me out of school, out of, and when you're at that age, it's really devastating. I think the social aspect was hurting me. I remember the social aspect, the stigma of having these seizures in public more than the seizures themselves being an issue.
Yeah.
And my mom somehow heard about a chiropractor in my little town in France. And we went, she took me, and guess what happened to the seizures, Dave?
They got worse.
Hey, that's not what happened.
They got better.
It just went away.
Wow.
And so I finished my schooling. At the end of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my mom again said, hey, why don't you go hang out with our chiropractor? You like him, he likes you, see how you like that. And, I spent a couple of days with him in his office, going from patient to patient to patient to patient, seeing one amazing thing after another. I mean, it was mind-blowing, the changes that these people were experiencing right here in front of my eyes. And I did it for a couple of days, so there were some returning people, and I would see them in a very short amount of time experiences massive transformations in their health profiles, their well-being, who they were as human beings. And he sent me home after that with a little booklet called The Triune of Life. It was translated in French. It's a book that Reggie Gold wrote. When I read that, Dave, the world made sense. Everything was in the right order. It just added up. That was it. I can remember that minute when I read that evening, I read that booklet. I was a chiropractor right then and there. That was a transformational experience. I'd been softened up by seeing the stuff happening, and I read it, and intellectually, as well as in my heart, there was a transformation. There was, that was the minute I became a chiropractor. Then after that, I went to school at Life University. The most outstanding thing that happened to me there were I met Linda, my wife, right? I mean, that's for me, that's there's nothing better that's ever happened to me.
Yes.
And fortunately, Life University in the early 80s was in this really amazing growth phase. Dr. Sid was at the top of his game. 4 times a year, DE would pull up in town, and DEs back then were enormous, were huge. And Linda and I went to DE every single quarter. Every quarter we'd go to DE, and this is where this is where we got bathed into chiropractic. And this is the chiropractic we practice is grounded in that. This is where we got the philosophy part as well as the business part, because Dr. Sid was always very clear that there is a service hand and there is a business hand, and both of those need to be. You need to be very conscious and mindful of handling both in a way that's going to benefit the patient as well as enable you to keep benefiting the patient. And you can only do that if you're in business to start with, right? but also if you're affluent enough that you don't have to think about paying your bills. Paradoxically, it's much easier to get paid when you don't need to get paid than it is when you're starving and you just like, you're in survival mode. So having that business handled, having this understanding that there is a business transaction and you need a solid business procedure, having that is absolutely essential for students graduating, that they understand. And for me, that's very important to communicate that a few things are going to make a chiropractor, a new chiropractor, successful. In my experience, now I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen people come and go. There's, and there are patterns to success. Three things. Chiropractic is three things, Dave. Chiropractic is a science,
an art,
and
a philosophy.
That's correct. Now, which one is most important?
It's impossible. You need all three.
That's right. They are all equally important. That's really, really, really fundamental to get that. So where do you get the philosophy? You need to, in school you're getting some. Going to DE, for me, I got some. But on an ongoing basis, when you come out of school, right? Because there's this, school is a cocoon, right? For better or for worse, they're molding you a certain way. When you're out of school, that's gone, right? So the philosophy, which is one of those three things that are so important for you, right? You need to be able to nurture that very, very proactively when you come out of school, and you need to hit the ground running with that. So what I would recommend for all people who are starting in practice, and frankly, I do it 30 years out, so it doesn't end. Good habits are good habits. Is to hang out with like-minded chiropractors, and to hang out with the people you want to be like. So most chiropractors who are established, who are successful, are incredibly generous. They're incredibly generous with their time. They're incredibly generous with their knowledge. They're incredibly, go and tap into that. I promise you, most chiropractors, if you're further than 25 miles away from a school, will be thrilled to have you in your office, in their office for however long you want to hang out.
Exactly.
If your attitude is one of, I'm here to learn and I'm here to, know what you know, people will just give you everything. So go and do that. So important, right? The getting the philosophy down by hanging out with people, continuously going to places where you're going to get fed, and today it is so much easier than it's ever been, right? Mm-hmm. When I came out of school, there was DE every quarter, and that was that. And then a group in Massachusetts, maybe 25 years ago, started, called the Massachusetts Alliance for Chiropractic Philosophy. It had a different name back then, but same people. Mm-hmm. And we started meeting once a month. And for over 20 years, we've been meeting once a month, right? And we welcome people, new people, old people. Everyone is welcome to attend. But do you think I get something out of going there once a month?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm over 20 years in, and I still get something out of it. So, don't ever feel like, I got the degree, or I got the X number of years and I'm all set, I got it all. We never have it all. Life is always throwing you curveballs. You need to have the grounding, you need to have the habits, you need to be able to rely on people. And the relying on people, those friendships or relationships are formed over time. The strength of a relationship that you have with someone that you've known for 5 years or for 10 years or for 20 years is different than someone that you've just met 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. And that's going to translate it with your patients. You're going to make those relationships. Don't think in terms of one of the mistakes I see people doing is looking at that patient and thinking of them in terms of a short treatment regimen, mm-hmm. right? that non-chiropractic approach, that allopathic approach of, because we can do something to people and they will have a reaction that's pretty predictable, that of symptoms going away. Now, you know what? I love it as much as the next guy, right? When somebody walks in and they're broken and they walk out and they're fixed, I love it, right? However, there's so much more that we're about and that they are about. And that happens over time. So we need to give our recommendations to patients the space to grow that relationship so that they really can get the full benefit of what chiropractic has to offer them, which is really their own body's ability to be as magnificent as they were made to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you were very involved with the state boards in Massachusetts. And so why is it important for new grads and students to be concerned with the state board?
Well, the state boards give you and take away your license if they want to. One of the hardest things they've had to do is actually take people's licenses away. Mm-hmm. I found it extremely difficult to remove someone's ability. Now, you lose your license in one place, you lose it everywhere, right? It's all interconnected. I found it extremely difficult to basically destroy someone's career. The people whose license I took away were criminals. There's no doubt in my mind. They needed to be cleansed away from our profession. They didn't deserve to be our colleagues. But still, it's enormously difficult to do. And some of them were relatively new practitioners. And I think that they got snared into patterns. They got associated. You remember I just talked about hanging out with the people you want to be like? Mm-hmm. They were hanging out with the wrong people. It's like middle school all over again, right? You're hanging out with the wrong crowd, and poof, all of a sudden your prospects are going down the drain, even though you had all of this potential. These people started associated with people who were criminals or who were working in quasi-criminal enterprises. And they, the criminals who endure are going to be the smarter criminals. They're going to be the ones who are able to insulate themselves from the law, right? So guess who's not insulated? The new practitioner who goes and works for them, who gets paid really well and gets smacked. And I tell you what, it's really sad because these people who are running the show are walking away. These young dudes and girls, they lose their ability to be chiropractors. That is sad. Mm-hmm. That is incredibly sad. So this is why you need to be mindful of your state board and what your state board says is okay to do and says not okay to do, because state boards have a lot of power over what it is you can do and can't do. By the same token, there's no state board police out there for the most part. No one is out to get you. Mm-hmm. So unless you are doing things that, that somewhere in your mind you shouldn't be doing, no one's going to come and get you. Now, the exception to that is if people that you're serving think you're not doing a good job and they complain. Now, when consumers complain, that's a problem. That's a big problem. There should never be such a thing as, you should really do everything you can to make your consumers happy and not complain about your service.
Exactly.
So good communication skills here is what's needed for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, what would be your greatest advice for students?
Well, I already gave you some really good advice.
Exactly, yeah.
But the last thing that I think people get trapped in terms of their ability to consistently show up in their office at their best. Because, when you show up in your office, you need to be on your game. You need to, you need to be, you're there for the patient, not for you. That is so important to remember. The visit is about the patient. The visit isn't about you. How you feel that day has no bearing on what's going on and what's going to happen today. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to remember to base your feelings on what you know is right and not on what other people are going to think about you. We're chiropractors. We're always going to have people who think that we're quacks, we are not real doctors, we're whatever. Maybe they'll go away in your lifetime. It's not going to go away in my lifetime. But if I ever attach how I feel to what other people say or what I think they think about me, that would destroy me, that would destroy anyone. All of the long-term, lasting, successful, durable chiropractors I know don't give a flying leap about what anyone thinks about them. Mm-hmm. I don't care what anyone thinks about me. I do what's right because it's right. And I always put the patient first. But whatever anyone says or thinks about me, I just don't care. I just really don't care. It's not going to affect me doing the right thing for my patient.
Absolutely. Dr. Jean-Marc, thank you so much for sharing your light with us today. If you want more information or want to connect directly with Dr. Jean-Marc, check out the links below. Every week, I will be uploading a new interview with another leader in the chiropractic profession. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please share it with your classmates and subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is Dave Tran, and this was LuxTV, shedding and spreading light.